as well, which is forget the past.
Before this coronavirus hit, he had the economy booming, and red, yellow, black, and white Americans of all stripes were able to take advantage of American prosperity.
Despite President Trump's common sense approach, Joe Biden and Democrats aren't coming around to the same reality. They want to keep the schools closed.
So this is Joe Biden. This is a man who wants to be president, and he can't find the time in his little video to say he's proud of this country. We've never lived up to it, he says.
I don't think that if Joe Biden was president, we would see these types of gains. It is because of Donald Trump's policies and what he has done to help our country grow again.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to be here with you and to hear these stories on why the fight for freedom can never be forgotten.
What is happening in our backyard today, I experienced as an 11-year-old by a guy named Castro.
Republicans are the party of freedom, Democrats are the party of socialism and worse.
We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump Online.
All right, hello, good evening, everybody. Bienvenidos and welcome to Latinos for Trump Online. I am Alfredo Ortiz, the president and CEO of Job Creators Network, and also a proud member of Latinos for Trump Advisory Board. Please make sure, first of all, to like and share this broadcast with your family and friends and family. I am hosting in place for Mercedes, and like I've told my fellow participants here, she makes it easy, so bear with me. I hope to make it an enjoyable 30 minutes here. We got a lot to talk about and very exciting. So last week was a momentous week for Latinos overall, for the community in the United States, between the USMCA and the visit from the president of Mexico to the signing of the president's executive order on the White House Prosperity Initiative. We saw true leadership come from President Trump, and he's going to keep making promises and lifting the Hispanic community the way he has from day one. To discuss these developments, I am pleased to be joined by John Sanchez, the former Lieutenant Governor of New Mexico. Welcome, Lieutenant Governor. He's also chair of the White House Prosperity Initiative. Javier Ortiz, founding member of Falcon Cyber Investments. And Lourdes Aguirre, who is the founder of Eres America, an organization that develops television, radio, and internet-based programs focused on issues affecting the Hispanic community and my fellow Latinos for Trump Advisory Board member. Lieutenant Governor Sanchez, Lourdes, Javier, welcome to the Team Trump Online, and thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Great to be here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, so let's begin with overall the president's historic executive order. We were all there. We witnessed that. We were part of that. An amazing, amazing day. I don't know about you, but I felt the pride just surge from inside of me. Just on a personal note, and we all have these stories, and this is what makes this country so great. I used to pick through trash with my mom and clean toilets with her. So to go from that as a child to be sitting and standing there on stage with the president of the United States, only in this country can that happen. And I was so proud to be there and so proud to be standing with you all. Here's a clip of President Trump from the signing of the executive order. If we can play that clip.
The executive order I will sign in a few moments will expand our efforts across all of federal government to deliver educational and economic opportunity for Hispanic Americans.
Lieutenant Governor Sanchez, there have been a lot of empty promises from Joe Biden about what he would do for the Hispanic community, but President Trump has delivered again from day one for Hispanic Americans. What does this new executive order and the Hispanic Prosperity Initiative from the White House mean to Latino families, workers, and small business owners across this country?
Well, I think you said it exactly right. It's simply a continuation of the president's efforts from day one of his ability to go out there and empower
all Americans, but especially in this case, Hispanics across our country. And so being part, and what an honor it is to be named chair of the commission, working with such amazing people from all over the country. It just goes to show you his commitment to ensuring that Americans have every opportunity. And he understands the importance of what Hispanics mean to our country. You know, with almost 60 million people here, Alfredo, across the country who are Hispanic or Hispanic origin, it goes to show you the sheer impact that Hispanics have on every facet of our nation. Education, economics, cultural, all those things encompass. And I was so proud and honored to be part of this, to hear the president's commitment, his continuation. I want to really emphasize his continuation of his efforts and how to empower. He understands that education is the cornerstone of what it means to be prosperous, his ability to enable every facet of the federal government. And that's what we're charged with, is working closely to continue his enabling. So whether it be with the Department of Education, Small Business Administration, HUD, Department of Commerce, all facets of the federal government, laser focused on ensuring that Hispanics have every opportunity to prosper. And I'm just so proud, and I'm honored to be, and really humbled. You mentioned your background. I won't go into much mine, but again, like a lot of Hispanics across the country, humble beginnings, and to be part of this effort to help lift up people, lift up Hispanics. He's not talking about a handout. He's talking about a hand up through education and economic opportunity. Great time for this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and you're absolutely right. I mean, if just before COVID, if we think about what the Hispanic community was really experiencing, the positive impact, basically, of the lower regulation and lower tax environment that President Trump from day one put in place. What did we have? We had record high median wage for Hispanic households. We had record home ownership for Hispanics. We had record low unemployment. This is the kind of leadership that the Hispanic community needs and wants and deserves. And again, really, he did that from day one. So Javier, the Lieutenant Governor mentioned kind of an interagency approach to this, which is different than what has been in the past. It had been the focus just on education. What does this mean to you in terms of kind of workforce opportunity and kind of broadening this interagency approach of not only education, but other aspects as well?
Thank you, Alfredo. I mean, I think this is really important because, as you well know from the Jobs Creator Network and the work you've done there, half of small businesses in the United States are estimated to be owned by Latinos and are creating jobs and opportunities. So having a comprehensive approach across all agencies that reduce regulation, enable the ability of entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs to start the businesses that they think fill a market void and address customer needs, and then drive that through innovation and, in many cases, intellectual property protection. We are all aware of the issues that the Chinese have created for us in stealing some of the technology, and the Lieutenant Governor was right spot on. I mean, you have Hispanics across America working at NASA, working in Silicon Valley, working in hospitals, working as doctors. So all of this innovation, knowledge economy, the hard work, agriculture, all of those things require that approach that the president has put in place. So everyone is thinking and acting, doing things that will help enable, create the jobs and opportunity that you've talked about. And look, my hat's off to you, Alfredo, because with the Job Creators Network, really have been driving the ability for folks to fully participate in the American dream by being the business owner that they would like to be, or employing the folks that would like to be part of that American dream. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for the Lieutenant Governor for bringing that out and for leading this group that will help drive that connectivity and break down the barriers that have historically been within the federal government.
Yeah, that's great, Ans. Thank you, Javier, for that. And a little known fact that probably we need to probably talk more about, but Hispanics as a community are more likely to open their own businesses on a 2-to-1 basis versus the general public. So they have that entrepreneurial spirit that really makes the American dream, right? And so thank you very much for the compliment on that. We've been very excited to be part of that fight, especially on the tax cut fight that, quite frankly, has benefited so many Hispanics, entrepreneurs across the country. So Lourdes, to you really quickly. Hello. We saw you, of course, sitting at the great round table there in the cabinet room. Amazing experience, right? Last week with President Trump. You shared your amazing story, and grateful you are part of the president's efforts against the Venezuelan communist regime. How do you think this new executive order will really promote and continue to promote and advocate for Cuban and Venezuelan communities?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm electrified. So I've been privileged as a faith director to sit around that table a couple of times on different issues. But this one is really impacting because it impacts all Hispanics, faith leaders, entrepreneurial families, education, it's just all well-rounded. And the exciting thing is that this didn't just happen overnight. This has been brewing. I was privileged to work with a campaign from the get-go, with a faith director for the GOP, and seeing that the president listened. He would come down to South Florida to sit with the Cubans, with refugees. I'm a perfect story. I'm a Cuban refugee from the Freedom Flights. Grew up, una guajirita, like you would say, Cubana. Grew up in Bell, California, right? I went to St. Matthias High School in Huntington Park. And to see myself right there with the president and of the United States, a powerful nation in the world, right? Impacting our people, our Hispanic people. I'm a widow, and I took advantage of every policy, every regulation he removed to open up my business the moment that he became president. And I started my company, Jemica Corporation, nationally and internationally. And when everything collapsed, immediately we heeded to his advice and we went into PPE. And where did you do this? I mean, we started a company, it's a multi-billion-dollar company, a woman, a single mother, because I became a widow to no fault of anyone, right? It was just what happened. And I just see this as what an amazing opportunity that now our parents are going to be able to have the opportunity. My parents didn't have, they had to pay for a Catholic school for me to go to school. But now our parents have the opportunity to go and have the school choice and have the scholarships. And we have in Florida over 100,000 families, and 40% of those are Hispanics who have reached out and have been able to be privileged with the scholarships. So of the school choice. So this is just exciting all around, to me, all around in every aspect of the Hispanic Americans in the United States. For the freedom cause, the Cubans, Venezuelans, we understand what it is to come to the land of opportunity, and a president that defends the Constitution of the United States so that we can have the freedom that our parents brought us here to have.
Amen, Lourdes. I have to say that right there couldn't be better said by anybody. I mean, really a fantastic story. And again, just talking about that experience around the table there, it is amazing to think, we were sitting around there talking to the president directly, listening to us. You mentioned school choice, by the way, and I want to get into that a little bit. There was a lot of conversation, a lot of passion around that. Parental empowerment, giving opportunity for parents to make that decision, to really make sure that their children have the best future possible. It's an amazing opportunity. We know where President Trump stands. I'm a full supporter of that, and really being able to promote that school choice through this kind of personalized learning experience, and pathways for these in-demand jobs. We know Ivanka Trump, for example, has been very, very instrumental also in working on kind of these workplace initiatives that really start all the way back, to our K through 12 programs, community colleges and stuff like that. But we know where Joe Biden stands on this, right? Joe Biden is clearly against charter schools and school choice, right? And we need to be more open about that conversation and more powerful, I think. So why do approaches like school choice and personalized learning matter when educating students and preparing them for the future, for future success? Lourdes, I want to start with you on this again. You touched on it already, but then I'd love to hear your thoughts, Javier and Lieutenant Governor, on this is very, very important topic, which I think we all have experienced and has benefited our futures, and that's why we're sitting here today.
Well, I think the opportunity our Hispanics have now is that there's nothing hidden under the sun. So Joe Biden is guaranteeing that he's going to remove that opportunity from the table. We will not have school choice. We will not have the scholarships. So there you have it. He is removing opportunities that our president is bringing forth, and not something that he just thought of because of the campaign. He's been preparing this the last 3 years by just a very brilliant fiscal opportunities that he has brought to our nation so that we would not be indebted, rather have reserves to be able to allocate it to the proper channels, which will be our children, our education. So to me, it's a no-brainer right now. We can speak to our parents. We can speak to every Hispanic and understand that Joe Biden, the Democrat Party, is clearly saying no choice for our people. Our president is saying, you have a choice, and I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, again, amen to that. Thank goodness. Javier, your thoughts on school choice and what this means to the Hispanic community?
So, look, school choice is about a open, honest conversation between parents, school administrators, and school boards that are elected to do the right thing for the children of their communities. And anybody who believes that that conversation should not occur gets to the Joe Biden solution, which will be that government mandates what it is that our kids are going to learn in schools. So I believe that parents should be involved. Parents should have that open, honest conversation. Administrators should say to them, are we prepared and ready to go from the lowest common denominator to the highest common denominator? How do we make sure that the kids that can excel in technology, and in an area where I focus a lot of time in cybersecurity, and if they're great kids that because of a particular piece of education or course they can get in a private school that the public school does not offer or doesn't want to offer, well, let that conversation be open and transparent. So anytime that you hear Joe Biden say no to school choice, he's saying no to a child's potential to excel, to be fully exposed and embraced to make that happen. And he's saying no to the highest common denominator ability that we as Americans and all Americans have, because we are free, and it's about the individual freedoms, right? We the people is how our founding fathers started this conversation. So anytime Joe Biden says no to school choice, he's really saying no to your kids and their ability to excel.
That's right. Lieutenant Governor.
Well, it's clear that Joe Biden is more concerned about pleasing the teachers' unions, the union bosses, as it went more so than when it comes to what the investment we're making into our children. Look, as a longtime small business owner, I'm always looking to get the best return on my investment. And by the way, there are some great public schools out there. Fantastic. My kids went to private school up until high school, then they opted to go to public school, and they got a great education. It was our choice. And Javier, I want to thank you. Thank you for saying and making sure that you're talking about parental involvement. As parents, we are the first line of defense when it comes to educating our children. Let's never give that up. But also with that authority becomes the responsibility, and a parent should have the authority and responsibility to say, I will not allow my child to go to a failing school. We're all taxpayers, right? And let's make sure we get the best return on our investment. And that's one of the things that I love about this president. He understands. And working with Secretary DeVos, her goal to make sure that all education opportunities are available to every single American family out there, that's the difference. The hypocrisy of the Democrat Party talking about public education and not allowing choice when it comes to giving parents those tools in their toolbox is wrong. And so elections have consequences. And I want you to know that President Trump is there to support parents and families because he understands that, again, education is the cornerstone to a child's success. Whether they go on to college and become an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, makes no difference. Or they decide to graduate high school and take on one of the trades. One of the great things I loved hearing the president talk about last week when we were around that round table was he used the term vocational training. We haven't heard that very often, right?
Right.
How important is that, right? In New Mexico, we have Hispanics who graduated high school, didn't get a chance to go to college, but you know what? They had skills and they went out there. And so they're contractors and plumbers. And by the way, you ever know what a plumber makes? They make great money because they have a good basic education. So the idea all around, the president's investment into education and giving the empowerment to families is the single most important thing. And that is the difference between Joe Biden and his failed policies under the Obama-Biden presidency versus Donald Trump and what he's offering to the children and to the families of this country.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. And Javier, you were part of the president's transition team. Talk a little bit too about what this all means. The impact of the Latino community and well-educated Latino community means to our U.S. economy.
Well, thank you. I was very honored to be part of the team. It was a unique opportunity to see pre-election and post-election the president's thought process develop and sort of come down with specific guidance and things that he thought were important. So none of these things that he's talking about today should really be a surprise to any of us who had an opportunity to serve on the transition team, because these are the kinds of things that we met about every day and wrote about and provided, sort of the landing teams at the agencies had these nuggets of the president's views and imprimatur, if you will, on what they wanted to do. So what I think it means to us is, look, the president is committed to America, and he says that openly and embraces that openly. And you know what? That's a great thing. Imagine that he's been able, from the beginning, when he was a candidate, America was the message, is the message, continues to be the message. Not division, not trying to go out and put people against each other, but really about, hey, let's all work together to make America an amazing place. Let's work together so the folks like China or Russia that have for decades really made it really difficult for our economy to flourish and for manufacturing jobs and all that, for them to have to, be accountable for the things that they've done, and for us as Americans to come together and say, look, we want American-made products, we want American jobs, we want American opportunity, and we want a great relationship with anybody in any other country that would like to have a great relationship with us. But it has to be on the terms that are good for Americans. And that message resonated then. It's resonating today. And in my own travels around the world, people are saying, wow, isn't that amazing? Because, filling the country, the president of that country got elected to look after that country. Wow, isn't that an amazing kind of thing, right? So that's what the president said he was going to do, is doing, and promises that he will continue to do. I just cannot think of a better way to have a leader that says that America should be and must be the president's number one priority. That's really amazing, I think.
Yeah. Imagine that, a president that actually puts his country first, and actually then gets pummeled for saying that. Lieutenant Governor.
Alfredo, if I could just chime in. Thank you, Javier, for mentioning the international challenges that we face. You're talking about education, right? Decades ago, our competition was the school across town or the state next to us. Make no mistake about it, our country faces the greatest challenge. Our competition is now global, right? I, like Javier, have traveled internationally. I represented New Mexico and the U.S. I was the chairman of the International Committee for the National Lieutenant Governors Association. I traveled the world and studied their education systems. And so if we're not committed to preparing our American children for competition globally, we're going to lose out. America still is considered the best place in the world to send a child when it comes to higher education, but our K through 12 is important. And so if we understand that and support what the president's trying to do, prepare our children to not only compete here domestically, but more importantly, to compete internationally. That's the challenge we face, and that's why the choice is abundantly clear between Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to make the necessary investments, and let's get our kids educated so that they can compete.
That's right. Lourdes, did you want to add anything to that before we go to a little commercial break?
So what I was thinking is we were all just listening to this real statement, promises made, promises kept in every aspect of our president's promises.
Yes, absolutely that. Well, thank you, all of you. With that, we're going to take a short break. So stick around, please. We'll be right back for more Latinos for Trump Online.
Democrats destroy everything they touch. That's a fact. After years of failure as a result of their terrible leadership, our nation is finally winning again under President Donald J. Trump. Sadly, The Democrats and the fake news media hate my father more than they love our country, and they're doing whatever it takes to tear us down at the expense of the American people. That's why we need every American patriot to step up and join our fight. Just download our app to receive alerts from the Trump campaign, and you'll get the latest updates on our efforts to keep America great.
Ready to go?
This is a crisis.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia.
Biden's son inked a $1 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Bank of China.
Why are we getting nervous, man? China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Since the outbreak, the Communist Party has been mobilizing overseas organizations to buy local supplies and send them to China.
The growth of China is overwhelmingly in our interest. What a beautiful history we wrote together. Banning all travel will not stop it.
The president is right. That travel restriction on China, as every public health official we've talked to said, bought the country time.
Hysterical xenophobia. Jeremiah. Xenophobia.
Joe.
I complimented him on dealing with China. I'm not going nuts.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. Welcome back again for Latinos for Trump Online. I'm Alfredo Ortiz, your host for today, in for Mercedes Schlapp, who makes this look so easy, but it really isn't. And of course, I am honored to be interviewed also with former New Mexico Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez, Lourdes Aguirre, and Javier Ortiz. Welcome back. So this is our second segment. A very interesting thing happened right after the announcement of the White House initiative, Hispanic Prosperity Initiative, and it's related to Goya Foods. So we're going to be talking about Goya Foods and the cancel culture, something that's also near and dear to me. I actually did an op-ed on that for Fox News, and over the weekend did an interview on that. So I will probably be joining in on this conversation as well. But at the signing of this executive order, the CEO of Goya Foods, Bob Unanue, praised President Trump. Let's watch this clip.
We're all truly blessed at the same time to have a leader like President Trump, who is a builder. And that's what my grandfather did. He came to this country to build, to grow, to prosper. And so we have an incredible builder, and we pray. We pray for our leadership, our president, and we pray for our country that we will continue to prosper and to grow.
And imagine that, for those comments, praying for our country and the leadership to make sure that we have prosperity for all. The left, the radical regressive left, has called for a boycott of Goya Foods. Lourdes, I'm going to ask you first. React to that.
This is just, wow. This is a moment we can show the power of our people, of all people, and boycott the boycott. I mean, my pantry completely, we had Goya, but now it's 100% Goya. And I think I always remember a few years ago, not too long ago, when they tried to do to Chick-fil-A for the CEO standing to saying something very personal, not attacking anyone, and it turned to an incredible profit to the company. So that's what I foresee. I foresee that this is going to be so outrageous to our people that we're going to now, people that had no knowledge of what Goya was, will now know and fill their pantry with Goya. I mean, a generous, right after that statement that we all saw, a generous statement was made of the contribution that once again, Goya was going to fulfill for the food banks, the pantries of our people nationally. And Goya employees are Hispanic, so boycotting once again, they could care less about our Hispanics, our workers, our people of all groups in our nation that are Hispanics and they need to be educated, and for that you need to have jobs. And so there they go. They go off to some outrageous boycott. So I think this is exciting to see the power of our Hispanic families to boycott the boycott.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we got to remind folks, 4,000 employees, the Goya Foods employees, mostly of Hispanic heritage in local communities, supporting local communities. And by the way, this really, I think, puts a spotlight on the duplicity of that regressive left because they had no problem when President Trump called Bob Unanue to the White House and congratulating him and honoring him for the success of the Hispanic community, or when he worked with Michelle Obama on her efforts, on nutritional efforts. They didn't have a problem with that, but boy, the second he shows any support for President Trump, for our community and for our country, they call a boycott. Lieutenant Governor, your reaction?
Well, again, it goes to show you the hypocrisy of the left, how they could do that. So I won't go any more to that because I think it's clear we all understand. But I would say this, think about the person that really kind of kicked off this boycott. It was AOC. And unfortunately, she has a very short memory because it was really in her almost home district, city of New York, that Goya had such a huge impact during different natural disasters. It's interesting to see that one of Joe Biden's biggest advisors is AOC. And if he's taking the time and opportunity to listen to her, imagine what he'll do as president. We need to push back on that. You know, in politics, they say define or be defined. We need to go out there. And that's one of the reasons why that day I walked away from the press conference when I was standing next to Bob and he walked back. I was so proud of his comments, but I was more proud in the days following when the pushback came. And he simply basically said that those people who wanted him to take back those comments and said, this is my words, basically go pound sand, how great it is that people to stand up to that. And we need to continue. We must cancel the cancel culture of this nation. But again, the choice is clear. Look what President Trump is doing to empower Hispanics. And yet Joe Biden is listening to people who would be counter to that. It's un-American and it's unacceptable. Let's push back on that narrative.
Yeah, I couldn't say, but you mentioned Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the comments that she has made on this, and just really the lack of truly understanding, you know, the Hispanic community and the positive impact that a organization like Goya Foods has had over the years. I mean, Bob Unanue is a third generation. I mean, when you look at the history of Goya starting in the 30s in New York, it's an amazing story of American entrepreneurialism. I want to highlight, you know, one important fact. Under President Obama and that administration, which included Joe Biden, you know, they saw for the first time in history what we called negative entrepreneurialism, which meant that more businesses were closing than were opening. That was the first time in history, and that was under President Obama and under Joe Biden. And you mentioned, again, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of his key advisors. Well, look at what she's actually advising again. You saw the just recently over the weekend, a little 1-year-old girl that was shot and killed in her district, and not a mention of that from her in terms of what we need to do to protect the community. All she's talking about is defunding the police. And instead of talking about law and order like our president talks about, she talks about unlawful acts, basically, and disorder. And that's what she's about. And that's what she's inviting Joe Biden on. So I'm glad you mentioned AOC. Javier, do you want to comment on this?
Look, what I thought about when I saw what happened the day after is really that there's a silent majority across the country that for many reasons choose to go to work every day, as they should, and choose to take care of their children. But when it comes to sort of some of these kinds of things, they see the things that AOC says and many of the other people say, and they're like, that's not America, and that's not the America that I want to have, and that's not the America that I'm going to participate in. And then they go buy Goya, and they go feed their children and feed their families and move on. But we do need to make sure that we push back, because at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is that what Joe Biden and AOC and the others want is government control of our lives, our ability to create jobs, our ability to choose where we send our children to school, where they should go to college, and what kinds of things they should do. Think about that. They want us to not have a choice. And we're Americans, and we have choices. We, the people, are the ones that make these choices, and we have a great choice to make coming up. in Election Day. And it's a choice that opens freedom and opportunity for all Americans and Hispanics. 50% of these of new jobs, of new companies come from the Hispanic community. And here's a president who says, let me figure out, and in this case, let's get the lieutenant governor to lead a team of folks to help figure out how do we lower those barriers and make sure that we can enable job creation and opportunity and education. Yes, that is, we need to cancel them. We need to cancel their view of the world that says that government should be driving what we do.
That's right, Javier. And Lourdes, one chance to chime in on this before we go to commercial break.
Absolutely. I think this is an opportunity for our Hispanic of all 30 generations to really ponder in their hearts what is happening. Our families come from all over the continent with a purpose of fulfilling their American dream, to work, have their business, and educate their children. And we understand the demographics in the United States of Hispanics may be diverse, but there's one thing that we understand what has done is the governments that want to control and remove the freedom. When a constitution is removed from the people's choice, like Venezuela and Cuba, there's oppression, there's dictatorship. That's what this group of leftists in the Democrat Party want to do. And when they are trying to boycott a company that is generous and is simply expressing their gratitude to the leader of the nation, it is the only thing short of controlling as a communist can is because they don't have the right, because we have our constitutional rights. But make no mistake, this is exactly the direction they want to lead this nation. So Hispanics of all groups have to understand when they go to the vote, it's not for a party. Now it's a determination of freedom. Are you going to have the freedom to open your business, to be an employee in whatever city you want to be? Are you going to be able to be educated and have a choice of the school? Are you going to have the freedom of who you want to vote for, and they're not going to shoot at you, or it doesn't matter what race? So this is a very, very crucial moment, and Hispanics have the opportunity to teach others in this nation who don't understand what the word socialism really means. It is not just socialism. It is not to be in a social atmosphere. It is communism. It is dictatorship with the direction they want to take us. So it is important that we all adhere to this and make it a life decision at this moment.
And Lourdes, I want to make sure we drive this point home. I'm going to come right back to you on this one. What do you say to those people that say to us that we're fear-mongering, for example, by saying we're on the the beginning stages of socialism, like we've seen in Latin American communities and stuff like that, down in Latin. What do you say to those people to push back on those comments?
This is a scary moment that I never imagined would live in this country, to hear the word socialism. But I will fight for this nation. There's two things I would die for: is the gospel of Jesus Christ and this nation. Of course, we all would do for our children and grandchildren, but something outside of family would be the gospel and would be this nation. The freedom that it has provided for all Americans. There's no other nation in the planet. So we must defend it with our blood. And so I will never cease to speak up, to put the signs I determined to have in my front yard of my president. And I will tell all Hispanics that we don't wake up and understand we are responsible. I would say that we are more responsible than every other people group in the United States, because our people truly have come from oppressed governments onto our people. So it is a major responsibility for Hispanics to go out there and tell all those ignorant groups that are even Hispanics speaking the word socialism in this country.
Thank you very much. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to take one more quick final commercial break, and so stay tuned for more Latinos for Trump Online.
Joe Biden's failed old liberal ideas would crush our economy just as it's recovering. Higher taxes on families, crippling regulations, trade deals that ship jobs to China. President Trump led us to the strongest economy in history. He did it his way, not the Washington way. And he's doing it again, renewing, restoring, rebuilding. 2.5 million new jobs, the biggest jobs increase ever. And he's just getting started.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Don't listen to the fake news media. They said we had no chance in 2016, and they're saying it again now. The future of our nation depends on you. The only way to ensure victory and keep America great is to get out and vote.
Well, thank you, everybody, and welcome back to Latinos for Trump Online. Again, I'm Alfredo Ortiz, and still with us are John Sanchez, Javier Ortiz, and Lourdes Aguirre. So, Lieutenant Governor, last week, Mexico's President Obrador visited with President Trump to make and to mark the USMCA deal going into effect. Why was this visit so important?
Well, Alfredo, first off, it did away with the old NAFTA agreement, which under Obama-Biden really killed thousands and thousands of millions of American jobs and shuttered so many small businesses throughout our nation. The president, as a candidate, President Trump, when he ran, talked about tearing up some of those deals, but more importantly, he talked about renegotiating. So the USMCA is a great new start for this continent, bringing both two of our great trading partners, Mexico and Canada, to the table, having an agreement that's equitable and fair. And so for the president to be able to host the president of Mexico goes to show you his commitment to building relationships. Isn't that what we're all in this for, right? Politics, business, personal, it's about building relationships. And one of the things that I was so impressed was that this warm, genuine friendship that both presidents enjoyed. Why? Not only do we share a border with our friends from Mexico, but maybe more importantly, we share our values. And that's critical. Shared values with a good, strong neighbor. And we want to thank the president of Mexico and his government in assisting the United States in border control and trying to secure that border for both sides. So it goes to show you that this president is committed to building those relationships, to establishing and building on good shared values, and more importantly, making the continent, this new trade agreement, so important for the future of American families, American workers, and American businesses. It goes to show you his commitment to making sure that America first. And by the way, every country in the world believes that their country should come first. That's patriotic. But by doing so and ensuring that we have not only good trade, job creation, but that there's a sense of security. COVID-19 has taught us one thing, that our supply chains are very, very critical. We should be working closely with people who have our shared values and our best interests regionally to ensure that we don't ever get to the point where we don't have those necessary, whether it be pharmaceuticals, PPP, or other necessary tools, products, and protection for this country. Our supply chains are important. The relationship with Mexico is strong. We look forward to the president in his next term, even building it further to create a brighter future for both nations.
Thank you, Governor. And that's one thing for sure this president understands is jobs, right? Jobs, jobs, jobs. And if we do look at the old NAFTA agreement versus the USMCA, I believe many estimates that I saw was that it killed about 850,000 jobs. And the new USMCA deal is expected to add about 176,000 jobs. So we're talking over 1 million swing in jobs from job losses under previous administrations to really job gains, and especially in manufacturing and in areas like Michigan, where literally billions of dollars are going to be invested from auto parts and stuff like that. These are American jobs, employing hardworking Americans, of Hispanic descent, of every single ethnic race, black, doesn't matter, but this president is about jobs. And this is what he understood. And I was also excited to see kind of the warm relationship that's really, that was really present between AMLO and our president. And so that was fantastic to see. Javier, from your perspective, the USMCA, how does it benefit American workers?
Well, so the good news is that it allows us, and something that the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, supply chains are incredibly important in the manufacturing space. And to the extent that we can have those supply chains be physically closer, Canada, Mexico, and the United States versus China and Asia Pacific, other places, particularly for things that, like cars, where now we're seeing a shift from just more than just the mechanical pieces, but also the technology that goes into a car. So we are closer, physically closer together, building these cars and other things. I'm using cars as an example, where we can more closely cooperate with Mexico and Canada. And in the case of Mexico, they are able to lift their own economy in a way similar to what Canada and the United States have been able to do without necessarily the loss of jobs to Americans. So it's a really forward-looking thing. One thing that it's really important for us to remember about this deal has to be reviewed every so often. So unlike NAFTA, that was set in stone, and no matter what the circumstances were, we couldn't change any of that. That's not the case here. So as we progress and as things get moving over the next few years, we will be able to get together with our friends in Canada and Mexico and refocus if needed or expand if needed. So that particular feature is also exciting because it goes with how really business works. As businesses change and as needs and wants of consumers change, the trade agreement will also be able to adapt to it.
No, that's actually a great point. The idea to be able to adapt legislation and change with the changing times. I mean, I don't think the internet was barely even being created when NAFTA was signed. That was such smart legislation to be able to do that. It's a great point. Lourdes, did you want to add anything to this?
Yes, sir. A few things that was, to me, quite impressive. Number one is the fact that the rhetoric before was that our president would never be able to sit down with the president of Mexico. And there you had it, not only together, but the president of Mexico honoring our president and thanking him personally for respecting him as a sovereign nation, for the generosity of providing the goods, the PPE that were necessary during this pandemic, but also to do it in a way with no conditions, respecting the leadership and respecting the sovereignty. He said that several times, and that he honored the president and he thanked him. So to me, that was quite amazing. And as a company that we have commodity trade, it's amazing because now our farmers, we're going to be able to trade within our continent. This will help our people in Mexico and the rest of the continent with trade, amazing opportunities for our farmers here and our farmers over there. The companies that will be able to expand in employment because we will be within the same continent. It's just a no-brainer, right? We are here, this one big continent that we can have fresh produce. We don't have to be going off sea and offshore, which we will at that point, which is what happened the last 30 plus years. We've lost so much from our nation's opportunities in all areas, right, of business and employment and so forth. So this is quite an amazing opportunity because you will see a shift also of immigration. Our people don't want to leave our nations. They're doing it because they don't have any other opportunity and they want to come to the land of opportunities. So when we are as family and brothers and sisters in business trading, this is an opportunity for all. So I'm just excited as can possibly be with what took place last week.
Alfredo,
go ahead, Lieutenant Governor.
I think Lourdes hit it right on the button. Look, the ability, I think the president, clearly being a businessman, understands that free enterprise means leveling the playing field. And at that point, let competition be injected. The good thing about this is that it's going to level the playing field, primarily, not only for American workers, but it also benefits workers in Mexico. The ability to build a strong middle class in Mexico is in the best interest of the entire region. And this is important. So it affects immigration here. By building a strong middle class in Mexico, they don't have to leave. They don't want to leave their families and their communities. Why? Because they have the ability to earn a good living. It helps American workers too. So this is another reason and the difference between Joe Biden, who doesn't understand how to create jobs and how to level the playing field, what free enterprise means, competition, versus our president, who understands that it's in his DNA and is proven and it's coming out in his policies. And the USMCA is a perfect example of one of those policies that has worked, and it's going to be good for America, it's going to be good for the region, and it's going to help us across the board.
Absolutely. Very well said, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you so much. I want to get everyone's reaction right now to a clip of the president, actually, from his visit with Mexican President López Obrador. So if we could play that clip right now.
Mr. President, I'm certain that together we can unlock a future of even greater potential for our children, prosperity for our people, safety for our citizens, and pride for our countries. With today's visit, I've never been more confident that the future of this precious relationship and the destiny of this majestic continent will never be in better hands and never had a better future.
So Lourdes, we're going to come to you first, then Lieutenant Governor, and then Javier for a reaction to the clip.
Again, this is an excitement to all Hispanics in our nation. I will repeat again, the rhetoric was mentioned during the whole campaign the first time around, that our president not only disliked Mexicans and Mexico, and that he would never be able to sit with the leader of Mexico. And here, not only we had him sitting, we had him standing, we had him honoring the leadership of Mexico, whichever differences of politics may be. He was honoring the leader of the nation and the people and the hardworking families in the United States that represent Mexico. So it is not only a beacon of hope that we have a leader that knows how to do that, but also understands what it means for Mexicans and Mexican Americans in the United States that will be able to have this relationship and these opportunities to trade and to be able to enhance our economy in both nations.
Well said. Lieutenant Governor?
I said shared values, shared border. The president made some promises as a candidate. The differences between him and Joe Biden, when Joe Biden was part of the Biden administration, they didn't keep their promises. President Trump has kept his promises, and that goes to show you rhetoric versus results. I'll take the results any time of the day. So really proud of the president. Good job. And again, somebody who's traveled the world, I have a great relationship with many, many officials in the country of Mexico. And I can tell you that they respect this country because he believes he's going to do it in long-term best interests of both nations and making sure that he protects citizens, public safety, national security, all those things, job creation. I think the people, Hispanics of this nation, should look really closely of this type of example of leadership that the president has put forward. And I'm so proud of him. Thank you. Thank you, President Trump.
Javier?
Look, the most important thing that I got out of that is that you have the president of Mexico who says that he is the president of Mexico and that he's looking for Mexico's interest, getting together with our great President Trump, who said in the campaign and during his presidency and continues to say that his job is to look after America and Americans. Wow, amazing, right? They came together and they said, the president of Mexico said, looking after Mexico, and the president of the United States, President Trump, says, looking after Americans. We can come together and come up with something that's good for both of our people. Amazing. And I think that is really the kind of leadership that we're looking for as Americans. We need a president who puts America first so we can have meaningful dialogue with anybody who wants to be our friend. And anybody who wants to be our foe, well, then they know what it is that they have on the other end of the negotiation, if we want to call it that.
That's right. Well, thank you to the three of you. As we wrap up tonight's discussion, I want to give each of you a chance to kind of offer your final thoughts as we really sit and look at what President Trump has done for the Hispanic community, for the Latino community overall, the achievements, and what would happen in a Biden presidency, right, if that were to happen. And we pray, obviously, that it doesn't happen. But I want to have that opportunity to give you guys that chance to really offer those final thoughts. Lieutenant Governor, let's start with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Alfredo, for hosting. You did a great job. Listen, I am a very, very proud Republican. I'm a great conservative. But, you know, I've always considered myself to be a much better American. Yeah, a proud Hispanic American. Somebody who is so humbled by the people who have paid the price, our military, the men and women who have died. Freedom isn't free. And when we think about somebody who has made a commitment to our military and to our veterans, that's President Trump. And all Hispanics understand that, Hispanics by percentage, at least in the state of New Mexico, have served this nation at a greater percentage than almost anybody else. And so we thank them for their service. They need to know that this president stands with them and he understands. He not only wants America to protect its borders, but he also wants to make sure that Americans feel safe and secure. A president with law and order. And that's important for all Hispanics, especially Hispanics who live in kind of tough neighborhoods and areas and cities that are not safe. They want their children and their families to be protected. You can't have a good job and you can't create a business and you can't build a business if you don't feel safe and secure. And I believe that is one of the biggest differences between President Trump and candidate Joe Biden. When it comes to job creation, when it comes to the opportunities for education, this new initiative, again, like I said, is simply a continuation of the president's commitment to ensuring that Hispanics have every opportunity. And we're going to open up and work hard to cut through the red tape and the bureaucracy that government presents just naturally, to ensure that every facet of this government, with the leadership of President Trump, allows for Americans and Hispanic Americans to enjoy prosperity. And that's what we're all in this for at the end of the day. So I just want to say I'm humbled, I'm grateful, I'm proud to be part of this new initiative. I look forward to working, and I'm going to encourage everyone listening tonight. Let's put aside what the media wants to say, put aside of what our opponents are saying, and really think who really has your best interest at heart. And I believe when it's all said and done, no matter if you're a registered Republican, a Democrat, an independent, if you're concerned about the future of this country, we believe that President Trump is the guy who's the man, the president who's going to lead and ensure that all Hispanics are enjoy the American dream, which is simply good family, good job, good education, and that they feel comfortable and confident about their future. So thank you so much for having me, Alfredo.
And thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your past, current, and future leadership and representation of the Hispanic community. You make us very proud, so thank you. Javier?
You know, first of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here. This is an amazing group of folks. I'm very humbled by the opportunity. It's incredibly easy for us to get bogged down with what the mainstream media wants us to be looking at, or what Joe Biden or the other folks are telling us that makes America terrible. You know, I get up every morning and I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. I'm an American and I'm in America, and I have the opportunity to go do all kinds of stuff. And it's just an amazing thing to do. And we should embrace that. We should embrace that. You know, we all have political views, fantastic. But what we cannot allow the mainstream media and Joe Biden and the others to do is to keep us from that amazing opportunity and amazing future that we have as Americans, and that President Trump is delivering on. The promises made, promises kept. The president continues to deliver today. He has articulated a plan to get us behind this COVID thing. They're going to be, unfortunately, a little bit of hard work that we're all going to have to do to get behind that, right? And there are also a lot of great opportunities. So you talked about Hispanic businesses. Half of the new businesses, or half of the businesses in America, are owned by Hispanics. We're going to need lots of new strategies on how to deal with a post-COVID environment. And the president is leading. We have a role to play as individuals in making sure that in our communities, whether it's education, public safety, local governance, whatever it is, that we're actually involved and engaged in driving a message of personal responsibility and freedom. And I thank you for the opportunity for being here today. I would say that Mercy probably is not going to have you over again, because you did such a great job that she probably should be concerned about her hosting of this show. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for your leadership in getting this, Alfredo.
Thank you very much, Javier. And I may just have to fight you for that title of luckiest man on the planet. So,
all right, let's do it.
Lourdes?
Well, first of all, thank you all. I'm surrounded by amazing leaders here, and I thank you, Alfredo. You did a fantastic job. I echo everyone's words. So I'm just going to say now, the last ones will be my own personal one. I'm an American by choice. I remember at 17, so excited to study for citizenship so I can swear and become an American by choice, right? So my daughters would ask me, why, Mommy, do you work in campaigns with so much passion? We believe what you do, but why is it that you're always so fierce about everything? And I ponder that in my heart the last two elections, because they were different, as we all know, from all the last 30 years, right? And then I stopped and I realized it was because I was born in communism. So now, echoing everyone's words and the reasons why this president is the perfect man for the job, economy, education, and everything else. But right now we're fighting for something we didn't fight 40 years ago, 20 years ago. Today, we know that this campaign will be now forevermore the same fight, except worse. The big opportunity we have here is we have a leader that is fighting for our freedom. We are right now fighting to keep the stable economy that he has established, the education opportunities he's giving to all people. We are privileged as Hispanics to have this initiative for the prosperity of Hispanics because he's such a brilliant businessman. He understands the impact that we have in the nation's economy. But most importantly, we could not have free education. We could not have the opportunities of education or business if we don't have the freedom. And so that's what we are preserving. The Constitution of the United States, the freedom to bear arms, the freedom to be a people's government, not the government to hold the people's rights, correct? So at this moment, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Americans, my Hispanic Americans, it is our job to go out there and reelect our president. I have 1,000% sure he will be reelected, but it'll be your responsibility and my responsibility to make that happen. So make no mistake, we are to go out after this program tonight and begin to do what we have been doing the last year, but in fiercely. Like it's depending on our lives and our children's future, so that one day we can look at their eyes and say, we did. We fought for the freedom that was going to be established for you to be able to have what you have. It'll be dependent upon us as Americans, as Hispanic Americans. And well job to our president. I honor him, and I used to like him. I love him now.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Javier Lourdes, thank you again very much for being part of this panel. Thank you for your time and leadership and really, doing what we need to do to make sure that as part of this White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative, we help recommend and put those plans in place to the president that are going to be required to make sure that our Hispanic community succeeds in this country. I'm going to say this with an exclamation point. I'm a proud American of Mexican descent, a son of a tailor, a son of a housekeeper, who again, was alongside with her picking trash and cleaning toilets, to be sitting with all of you and in front of all of these folks that are listening to this tonight and sitting with the president like we did last week, only in this country. And I know I'm going to go fighting till the very last breath that I have to make sure that we put in place and reelect President Trump, because he understands what it's like, and he understood from day one what it took to make sure that Hispanics in this country, and quite frankly, every American in this country, succeeded and was better off than they were before President Trump got elected. And we know what the Obama-Biden administration had with us, which was not great stuff, and now is being promised to be even less great stuff with advice from folks like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and stuff like that. So again, I couldn't be more proud to be part of this group. And with that, I'm going to close this first by, please asking everybody to like and share this broadcast with your friends and family. Second, if you can text VAMOS to 88022 to join Latinos for Trump Coalition, and text APP app to 88022 to download our official Trump 2020 campaign app. And finally, support your local Hispanic-owned businesses, and in this particular case, buy more Goya. That's right. Let's give them a record quarter of results. So again, massive thank you to our guests, again, Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez and Lourdes Seguida. And thanks to all of you at home for watching. And until our next episode, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on fighting to reelect President Donald J. Trump, our Reserve President. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you.